Hello viewers, I'm your host Lipakshi Khurana with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. Come 22nd June and the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will address a joint session of the US Congress. Prime Minister Modi will set a remarkable precedent by becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to address the US Congress twice. The United States has demonstrated an overwhelming appreciation of India as of late, recognizing her as one of its most crucial partners in the region. Be the transfer of advanced tech in defense, granting India Akatsa sanctions waiver, or unparalleled successful pushes in commerce, the United States has time and time again demonstrated its intent to cultivate a strong alliance with India. The world is watching India with awe and admiration, an economic powerhouse, a formidable diplomatic force, and the Vishwaguru in making. The US invite to PM Modi for a state visit, another reinforcement of the global acknowledgement of India's growing might and repute. Join us as we discuss India's current global status and the reasons why she has been the recipient of much acclaim.
Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the United States' House of Representatives, sent out a viral tweet inviting Prime Minister Modi to address the joint session of the U.S. Congress. The moment was evidence to both the strengthening of the Indo-US ties and to India's swiftly elevating prominence in geopolitics. Prime Minister Modi's affirmative response served as an emphatic stamp of approval. Being called by many as a deeply deliberated, carefully calculated U.S. call, the stage for this highly anticipated visit was set by President Biden himself through his congeniality and deep admiration for the Indian leader during the recently held G7 summit.
We have been able to kickstart the Indo-US Quantum Coordination Mechanism. We have signed an MOU on semiconductors, the initiative on public-private partnership on telecommunication, engaging stakeholders from the government, industry, and academia.
Although Prime Minister Modi had received huge admiration during his previous U.S. visits as well, this upcoming visit is eagerly awaited. Firstly, this is the first occasion when Prime Minister Modi's visit is being referred to as a state visit. Secondly, it is anticipated that the top-level discussions will encompass a wide range of highly significant subjects and deals. India, which has diversified her defense import market and has become self-reliant in developing a number of assault weapons and defense systems, is seeking to acquire the United States jet engine technology, with a full transfer of technology clauses built in. It is also expected that MQ-9 armed drones worth billions could also be in India's shopping list as Prime Minister Modi heads west. This technology can provide a big boost to India's defense capabilities, especially to the Indian Air Force. It is expected that the United States will seek stronger Indian support in countering Chinese aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Many in Washington have grown wary of China's increasing notoriety in the Indo-Pacific, which has threatened both American interests and allies. It was in line with these objectives that the United States' successive national security strategies, including the one released last year, referred to India as an ally, while calling China a competitor. The Quad security grouping is also a result of India and America's shared vision of a free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific.
Here we have United States, Japan, and Australia. This is in which they're all four democracies. And they're looking at all the possibilities of cooperation, collaboration, be it in the technological area, be it in the critical technologies, rare earths.
Both India and the United States will also seek to further improve their flourishing economic ties as well. Indo-US trade touched a historic mark of $128.55 billion USD in 2022 to 2023. It was a remarkable feat considering the trade numbers stood at $80.51 billion USD in 2020 to 2021. This was even more significant as India's trade with China declined by 1.5% to $113.83 billion US. The India-US trade framework is symbiotic and synergistic. Although there have been some hiccups here and there, both countries have successfully tapped each other's markets while playing by the rules.
I can tell you how thrilled President Biden himself is to see what is happening here. A number of the deliverables at that visit are not just bullet points on a page. They are fundamentally designed to remove those obstacles in defense trade, in high-tech trade, in investment in each of our countries, in taking away obstacles that have stood in the way of better collaboration among our scientists and researchers, in stimulating greater access for our students going both ways.
Maintaining neutrality in the face of an overwhelmingly polarized world is one of the greatest challenges a country can face. But guess who has effortlessly navigated this challenge? India. India's diplomacy, underpinned by effective communication and her strict adherence to the already established international norms, have led her to become the most sought-after and desirable diplomatic force in the world. From Russia to Israel, from Europe to Australia, and from the Middle East to the Indo-Pacific to the United States of America, everybody has admired India and has a strong desire to have her as an ally. India has even declined to choose sides, even when pushed. India preaches and strictly practices Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. India will remain impartial while actively pursuing her welfare missions in the interests of global well-being.
Moving on, as the cyclone Biparjoy made landfall in India and Pakistan this week, its fury wreaked havoc on the infrastructure, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Roaring winds battered shelters, tearing off roofs and shattering windows. Torrential rains flooded roads, power lines snapped, plunging entire communities into darkness. Telecommunication networks faltered, severing vital communication channels. The cyclone's relentless assault brought down trees, blocking highways and damaging crucial transportation routes.
As a violent storm made landfall overnight and torrential rain continued to lash the coast early on June 16, roofs were blown off houses, trees were uprooted, and electric poles were uprooted in numerous locations of Gujarat, a state in western India. In the recent days, more than 180,000 people were evacuated from India and Pakistan as authorities prepared for the cyclone known as Biparjoy to strike the coasts of both nations. The Bengali word Biparjoy, which translates as disaster or calamity, made landfall close to Jakhau, a port in Gujarat that is not far from the Pakistani border. Biparjoy had weakened to a cyclonic storm from a severe cyclonic storm on Friday morning, India's meteorological department said, with speeds going down from 105 km to 85 km.
मांडवी वहाँ पे जो ट्री फॉल के केसेस है वो कुछ ज़्यादा हो गए हैं। कल देखे थे थोड़े बहुत छोटे मोटे स्ट्रक्चरल कोलैप्स है, लेकिन आज जो हवा की स्थिति देख के लग रहा है कि आज नुकसान थोड़ा ज़्यादा होगा। नगर पालिका के ऑफिस में हम यहाँ पे आए, वहाँ पे ट्री फॉलिंग के केसेस ज़्यादा है, तो वहाँ पर जेसीबी से अभी फ़िलहाल ट्री फॉल के जो केसेस है उसके पेड़ हटाने की कामगिरी जेसीबी से चालू है।
In the immediate aftermath, rescue efforts began in Gujarat, in western India. Locals in India's western Kutch district were seen seeking shelter in relief camps as the cyclonic storm destroyed several houses and the subsequent rain submerged residential areas. Officials said 2 people died in Gujarat state before the landfall. However, no deaths were reported after landfall.
नुकसान तो हुआ है, घर के घर उड़ गए, झाड़ भी पड़ गए, और अभी यहाँ पर शेल्टरों में देखिए तो शेल्टरों में कोई जाना नहीं हुए और कुछ भी नहीं हुआ है।
The government of India had made extensive preparations before the landfall of the cyclone, and it was due to these exercises that no major incident was reported post the event. Cyclone is a phenomenon where a cluster of thunderstorms can develop over warm tropical oceans. If that cluster persists in an area of low pressure, it can start rotating. If the conditions are just right, the cluster of thunderstorms can grow in size and sustain itself and then develop into a tropical cyclone.
Moving on, the unexpected news of the IMF loan rejection has struck an already devastated Pakistan with jolting disbelief. With Pakistan now losing $6 billion from its future plans, a monumental fiscal tragedy has hit the Shehbaz Sharif government, which was already grappling with a multifaceted crisis of record inflation, monetary imbalances and low forex reserves. The loan rejections also come in the run-up to the general elections, further complicating the already chaotic political landscape. Join us as we discuss the ramifications of the IMF's loan rejection for Pakistan, a country already teetering on economic, political and social collapse.
Pakistan's economic situation is worsening amid the growing political uncertainty in the country. The Islamic nation has cut its GDP growth estimate for the fiscal year 2022 to 2023 to 0.29% from an earlier estimate of 2%, raising concerns of an acute economic crisis. In the aftermath of the devastating floods in 2022 and the political chaos that erupted in the aftermath of Imran Khan's ousting and arrest, Pakistan's $350 billion USD economy has nosedived. Recently, the country's foreign exchange reserves had also dropped to USD 4.19 billion, barely enough to cover 1 month of controlled imports. Adding salt to the wound, the IMF rejected Islamabad's demand of 6 billion USD of external financing requirement based on new current account deficit data. The requested funds are crucial for Pakistan to avert a balance of payments crisis, and most analysts believe that even after the expiry of the current program, Pakistan will have to seek a bailout in the upcoming fiscal year in order to avoid defaulting on debt obligations. The 220 million people of Pakistan have been suffering due to economic turmoil in the country. Prices of essential commodities are skyrocketing. The country registered record high inflation of 37.97% in May of this year. Pakistan's currency has also depreciated as part of the IMF conditions to bring the country in line with the market-based exchange rate. Political and economic uncertainty in Pakistan have left people facing issues such as unemployment, inflation, and load shedding of cooking gas and electricity.
जो हुकूमतें नाल हो चुके हैं, हुकूमत कर नहीं सकें क्योंकि सियासी बुरान भी है और माशी बुरान भी है। इस वजह से लोड शेडिंग गैस की अलग है तो बिजली की अलग है। बिल ज़्यादा भेज देते हैं और बिजली होती नहीं है और लोड शेडिंग इतनी ज़्यादा कर देते हैं। लोग और हम सब लोग परेशान हैं कि इसके लिए क्या करना चाहिए।
गैस बंद पड़ा हुआ, अरे बच्ची का दलिया तक भी नहीं बना, छोटे मासूम बच्ची का हमारा, अब गैस का क्या करें? यही तो कह रहे, सुकून दे दो हमें, गैस भी दे दो, बत्ती भी दे दो, वे सुकून ही करी हुई है। क्या क्या कैसे हुकूमत से क्या कहें?
The future of Pakistan appears bleak as the tussle between the army-backed Pakistan government and Imran Khan, the ousted former prime minister, continues. Many predict that the situation could further worsen for Imran Khan, who has been charged with 100 cases and is likely to be tried in military courts, which are notorious for human rights violations and other forms of grave crimes. Imran Khan has accused the military and its intelligence agency, the ISI, of working overtime to destroy his political party, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. He said that he had no doubt that he would be tried in a military court and thrown in jail.
I have absolutely no doubt that the military courts are meant for me. They will have the guys who are being tried, they will have get someone to approve, become an approver, who will say that it was Imran Khan who instructed us to conduct arson. And then they will try me in the military court. Because that's the only way they're going to get me into prison. Because all the cases so far, 150 of them, the moment they go to court, they are so bogus cases, frivolous cases, they get thrown out. So their only hope, and because they are determined to get me out of the way, I think the whole charade of military courts is to imprison me in the end.
Pakistan is slowly becoming a failed state due to political and economic instability, rampant corruption, and growing interference of the military in civilian affairs. As the country is expected to hold general elections this year, the political situation is expected to become even more hostile and volatile.
Time now for Asia This Week, the stories from across the continent.
Israeli forces raided the West Bank city of Nablus this week to carry out a house demolition operation. The Israeli military said that it carried out the raid to destroy the house of a Palestinian man, Osama Tawil, who had killed an Israeli soldier in 2022. Tawil was later detained by the Israeli forces in February 2023. Residents of the building were evacuated prior to the detonation of explosives installed in the apartment, according to mother of Tawil, Huda Tawil, who said she was at the flat when the Israeli forces arrived to the building. Palestinians and rights groups say home demolitions of assailants are collective punishment that breach international law. Israel says it is a measure that deters others from mounting deadly attacks. The West Bank, among territories where Palestinians seek statehood, has experienced a surge of violence over the last 15 months. US-brokered peace talks broke down in 2014 and show no sign of revival. A Chinese naval training ship arrived in Manila, its last stop of a regional friendly tour, amid growing unease over Chinese maritime activities in the South China Sea. The vessel named Qi Jiguang is a giant training vessel larger than a typical destroyer. It departed from Brunei on June 8 for the Philippines as part of a 40-day trip which has included stops in Vietnam and Thailand before Brunei. At the end of its trip, the ship and its crew of 476 Navy students and officers will have passed through the Yellow Sea, East China Sea, South China Sea, the Gulf of Thailand and the West Pacific. Its arrival in the Philippines comes amid tensions with its neighbors over the South China Sea, which China mostly claims but parts of which are also claimed by Vietnam, Taiwan, Brunei, Malaysia and the Philippines. A complex oil transfer from a decaying Yemen tanker is imminent now that insurance for the operation has been finalized. The United Nations have been warning for years that the FSO Safer could break up or explode any day, and it could dump 4 times as much oil into the Red Sea as 1989 Exxon Valdez disaster of Alaska. The Safer has been moored off the coast of Yemen since 1988, but maintenance operations on board have been suspended since 2015 due to the country's civil war. According to the UN Development Programme, UNDP, insurance has become a critical element to enable the salvage operation to proceed. Against the heat, urbanization and sand of the United Arab Emirates, the placid, muddy waterways of the Gulf states' coastal mangroves are being restored and planted in an ambitious fight against climate change. Tropical mangrove forests are complex ecosystems anchored around mangrove trees that thrive in inhospitable, hot, muddy and salty conditions. They protect coastal communities against storms and floods, host diverse and threatened species and can soften climate change by capturing atmospheric carbon. The UAE, which will host the COP28 climate summit in December, has been planting mangrove trees, since its founding in the 70s and plans to plant another 100 million mangroves by 2030. According to the United Nations Environment Programme, global mangrove forest in 2020 had declined by 3.4% since 1996 but stabilized in recent years. Older mangroves store more carbon, and the UN says the success rate of artificial mangrove restoration projects can be quite low.
Moving on, people from around the northern state of Himachal Pradesh in India congregated around Parashar Lake in Mandi district to celebrate the legend of Saint Parashar. A procession was taken out in Himachali tradition, people dressed in hill caps, choli and adorned with Himachali ornaments. Melomaniacs were high on cords and expressed their happiness through dance. With drums and trumpets, people took out a procession. Let's see how festivities were in the air in Mandi this week.
The crystal clear waters of the Parashar Lake, the mesmerizing views of the muddy meadows, and the ranges adorned with greenery that can captivate the florophiles. This hidden gem is in India's Himachal Pradesh. Attendees from different corners of India witnessed this serene scene and participated in the Saranahuli Mela. People camped around Parashar Lake enjoying the amalgamation of mythology, mystery, and adventure. It is believed that the lake was formed as a result of striking of rod by a religious sage, Rishi Parashar, and water came out and took shape of the lake.
पूरे विश्व में नहीं घूम सकते हैं, सभी मंदिरों को देख नहीं सकते हैं, सभी मंदिरों की परिक्रमा नहीं कर सकते हैं, मगर इस झील के चारों तरफ परिक्रमा करने से एक महत्व यह है कि हमने पूरे विश्व की परिक्रमा कर ली। उसी परिक्रमा की कड़ी में आज सभी देवी देवता यहाँ पर परिक्रमा कर रहे हैं।
Melomaniacs were high on cords and expressed their happiness through dance. With drums and trumpets, people took out a procession of Rishi Parashar. A procession was taken out in Himachali tradition, people dressed in hill caps, choli and adorned with Himachali ornaments.
सारे इलाका के देवी देवता यहाँ पे एकत्रित हो रखे हैं। हम बहुत सौभाग्यशाली मानते हैं अपने आप को कि इस मौके पे हमें यहाँ आने का मौका मिला और हमने सरोवर भी देखा, हमने पराशर ऋषि जी का मंदिर भी देखा, विष्णु जी को भी प्रणाम किया। तो आप देख रहे हैं ऐसा जो ये सिर्फ एक मेला नहीं है, ये तो एक अद्भुत स्थान है जिसे देखना ही हमारे लिए बहुत सौभाग्य मैं मानता हूँ।
People gathered in circles, singing songs and telling stories spread by sage. The panoramic views, religious practices and cultural threads make Parashar Lake a must-see. Paradise lays in Himalaya, and so does Himachal Pradesh's Mandi in the lap of Himalayas. And celebrations here connect people to unharnessed beauty of nature.
They say Himalayas are a paradise, and so is Himachal Pradesh's Mandi in the lap of Himalayas. And celebrations here connect people to underexplored beauty of the nature. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.